There's a lot of kids with a lot of talent, but if you're that guy that is just working crazy hard in college and outworking guys, like you're gonna eventually eclipse people. Like talent only takes you so far in this game. You got to work pretty hard at it. So I think that's something that for me is something that I always tell kids it's all about working hard. You might have a lot of talent, but you got to grind, especially, when you get up here on the pro tours, it's so competitive. Like a lot of it's just being that little bit sharper than that other guy.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds for junior golf. Today's episode is timely because just a couple of days ago, my guest won his second professional tournament ever. Of course, this guest is Neal Shipley. And Neal, you'll probably recognize as being the historic low-am at both the 2024 Masters, where on the Sunday he played alongside Tiger, which we get into, and also the low-am at the 2024 U.S. Open. Back-to-back low-am at two of the biggest tournaments in the year. It's a fantastic episode because Neal was, to his own admission, unremarkable in his junior golf career. He was unremarkable, not a standout in high school, college, anytime for a junior golfer. But somehow, and we get into this again, it's perseverance and grit and all the things they did to just kind of keep chopping wood, get a little bit better. And now in his early 20s, he's certainly peaking at the right time and going to do fantastic things. So this is a wonderful episode. If you're a golf parent and your kid right now maybe isn't standing out like you'd want to, but has a love and a passion for the game, it's kind of a story of hope and perseverance, and also kind of some of those inside tricks on how they can separate themselves from their peers. Before we get into the episode, though, if you're enjoying The Golf Parent and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you're enjoying the podcast. It makes a huge difference. Not only does it tell us that what we're doing is valuable, it tells the big bad algorithm that we're valuable as well. And now, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Neal, welcome to the Golf Parent podcast.
Great to be here. Excited to talk with you about all things golf and parenting.
And you're hydrated too, so that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, we're getting caffeine free.
What are we plugging there?
So we went a little caffeine free diets DC, which is honestly not the best thing in the world, but we're it's better than the normal stuff.
Okay, wait a second. I understand sugar free, but caffeine free? Aren't you pulling like the greatest benefit out of drinking Coke? Is that at least you get the caffeine kick out of it?
For me, it's like I like having something a little different than water every once in a while. But if most of the time when I'm home and having a Coke, it's still late in the evening. If I have a couple DCs while I'm watching some sports, then all of a sudden I'm up all night. So I'm trying to keep it caffeine free for us.
Okay. Not just a good golfer, but he's a pragmatist and a strategist. I like it, Neal. Okay, good. I didn't get a chance to tell you this. In fact, I didn't want to tell you this off air when we were catching up. But fun fact, I was actually at your pro debut in Victoria, British Columbia, at the Beachlands. I was there with my 1.5-year-old son, and I had heard about you, and so we followed along as long as he was willing to stay quiet and follow along. But I was actually in Victoria at your debut.
That's awesome. That was that's one Victoria Island. I think for those listening right now, it's beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful spots. I love that kind of little corner of Canada. I've got some good memories from playing some amateur tournaments in Vancouver, and then also just making my pro debut there at Uplands was a cool experience. And no, I mean, you Canadians are really friendly. It's nothing around, no way around that.
That's the word on the street, and so we'll do our best to keep that reputation going. So I'm kind of curious. So how was the pro debut for you? So cliches aside, I mean, like, did anything change? Was it just another tournament? Did you realize that there was something different on the line? Like what was your mindset going into the tournament? And if I remember correctly, you placed in the top 10 too. So it's like you did well. What was your mindset going into it?
Yeah, I think I was coming off of a week at Pinehurst. So I was flying across the country. So prior to Pinehurst too, I was in California. So I went California, Pinehurst, and then all the way back over. So, I mean, part of my strategy is like, I just wanted to rest and kind of like get ready to go because I had a big stretch of PGA Tour events coming up, but I needed to play some of those PGA Tour Canada events to hopefully, sneak up the points list and maybe make something happen. And yeah, it was a big rest week, which I think is really important to stay well rested and know kind of understand when you're tired. So that was a really good, learning experience there. And then I think there was definitely a difference being a pro. You kind of, especially a new pro. I think you start having those thoughts kind of in the back of your head of like, oh, like this putt, coming down 17 or 18 on Sunday, like this putt's worth a few $100s or a few $1,000s. And, you try to, it kind of gets your nerves going a little bit more because when you're in college and you're playing with your buddies, you might be playing for $20 or a couple beers. But, when you're playing, when you got that first couple times you play, like, man, this putt on 18, if I miss it, it's going to cost me, $20,000 like that. That's tough to
Significant.
stomach. Yeah, it's tough to stomach, especially when you're still a poor college student.
So that's interesting because you always hear about pros talking about the fact that they try to like block out the noise and not let that creep in. And it's nice to hear you admit that you're like, no, I'm fully aware of where I was in the leaderboard, what this meant. And like, how did you not let it affect you? Or were you able to push it away? And did you have any tools or kind of like mental tricks to be able to like, no, let's just find the present moment and kind of focus on what I can control?
Yeah, I'm one of those people who likes to be aware of the situation. So like if I'm coming down Friday, I want to know where the cut line is and how I'm standing compared to that. On Sunday, if I'm close to the lead, like I want to be aware of, where are the leaders at? Where am I at? And I feel like, when you understand that, you can kind of make the best decisions, most informed decisions. If like, hey, you got a 3 or 4 shot lead, you know, it's not that I'm putting more pressure on myself. It's just like, hey, I'm aware of this, and it's just another factor into the decision making. And when you're hitting golf shots, I think it's so important just to have be very athletic. You want to be an athlete out there. That's kind of a motto that I kind of throw around jokingly sometimes. But you just want to be athletic. If you're an NBA player shooting a free throw, you're not thinking about your form or like how the ball is going to come off. You're just kind of reacting and shooting. And that's how I like to be too when I'm playing golf. Like I just want to react, feel comfortable over the ball and just react to my targets and just hit it there. And, and just kind of let the result be what it is. I think too, it's, you can, when you're under pressure, it's easy to get upset when you hit a bad shot. And I like to operate under a system where like, hey, if I get a little upset under pressure, it's like, I can let that, if I'm under pressure, I can let that shot or bad shot like bother me for, 5 or 10 yards. And then I let it go and I'm focused on like, hey, this next shot's an opportunity to do something cool.
Were you always like that, or was that a skill set that you had to the hard way develop?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I think I definitely developed it over time. I didn't really have a mental coach, but I read a lot of books, did a lot of studying of how mental performance and high performers, and I kind of found my own way of like what works best for me. What's Neal Shipley's mental way to go through things, and yeah, it's a definitely evolving and changes over time. And I think winning is a learning process. It's you kind of have to learn how to win, and I think that's makes every time you get near the lead or you get under pressure, whether it's you're on the putting green with your buddies playing for a couple dollars, or in a tournament when you're close to the lead with a few holes to go, like that type of pressure, the more you get used to being under pressure, the easier it is to deal with when you're on the golf course in tournaments.
Is that the big kind of takeaway with learning how to win? Is it just exposure therapy where you just, as long as the more you put yourself in that situation to feel those nerves, the more comfortable you get? Or is there actually something else that you have to learn, like for example, to stay aggressive even though you may want to be conservative, or like a mindset shift?
Yeah, I think that for me, I think it's definitely a little bit of exposure therapy. If you look at a lot of the great golfers out there, like they were dominant at every level. Like you could look at a Justin Thomas, like he learned how to dominate at his, like local Kentucky golf level. And then he learned to dominate in junior golf more, worldwide, and then AM golf, and now pro golf. And these things are stepping stones. And I think too, like a lot of kids, they might be focused on let's play in these AJGAs, or I want to play in these big tournaments. And, it's like I would encourage them, obviously playing those if you can get into them, but playing in your local junior event like that, it's still a tournament. It's still hard to go win that. You got to go beat a couple kids who are pretty good at golf. Like, try and dominate those and try to win. Because like even if, the field's kind of bad, like winning's hard. And, that I think getting that exposure, being near the lead's important. It'll help you when you get into that big stage. And then you find yourself near the lead in the big stage, and you'll be more equipped, better equipped to handle that type of pressure, and just handle the things that go along with it. Because when you get under pressure, your hands might start shaking a little bit. Your body's going to react a bit differently, and it really is. If you do all the research, it's just kind of your body's natural, like fight or flight type of symptoms going on, and it's normal. And I think it's just something that you kind of have to accept, like this is going to happen, and it's a good thing. Like I want to be in this position, and that's why you practice and put the work in, and just go and trust your practice and do your thing, and try to just let it flow.
Have you found any effective ways to kind of simulate that pressure in practice situations?
Well, I think do a couple things. Obviously, the easy one, which we do a lot on all the tours, is you play for some cash with your buddies. And I think one, when you're playing with your friends, I absolutely hate losing to my friends, and I want to beat them more than I want their money. But and then adding a little bit of cash in there is fun. I think it gets it going. It's like it means something. These shots mean something. Something my caddy and I did last summer too, which I thought was cool, is during practice rounds, we would make little bets. We would do, we did like birdies, because, we didn't really want to grind on, hitting everything into the hole, but you'd hit your birdie putt or birdie shot. And we'd be like, okay, if we're playing 9 holes, 2.5 birdies a line. If I make 3 birdies, like the whole team's getting ice cream or something, like, a little reward for getting 3 birdies. And I think that was, it kind of got me in the mindset of like, hey, I need to go and stay focused, and like then when you get down to the last 1 or 2 holes, like I'm pushing, because I want to I want to go get ice cream at this sweet ice cream shop I picked out, stuff like that. Just something, it's silly like that, but it kind of does put you in that mindset of like I'm striving for this goal, and there's a little bit of pressure involved. And you could do little games like that all the time, even if you set goals with yourself on the putting green. I think that's when, if you're on your own, you can have little games on the putting green where you say, I need to make, I would go off the PGA Tour, like strokes gained stats, which I'm sure you can find online. I know you can find online actually. Just be like, okay, if I did this 9-hole putting course, like, I should hit, 16.5 putts. So if I get to 16 putts, that's a win. Or if you're striving to be better, 15 putts. Something like that. Challenge yourself. I think that's fun. Like, make games of practice.
Talk about that for a second. So like, you just in the practice screen, you'll just set up randomly, like start at maybe 20 feet, 30 feet, and just play like a 9-hole. And then like that 16 shot average, what is that based on? So if we were to set up, like, the golf parents out there, their own drill to simulate that, how are you doing that?
Yeah. So I think you could use, there's some apps that do it for you, like a Decade Golf situation, where it would create like a 18-hole putting course for you. So
shout out to Decade Golf, friend of the program.
Yeah,
So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I believe, I don't use Decade personally, but I've been told that they have a little putting situation like that where you can be like, okay, it's going to create random putts. And I think too, you could tailor that to the type of golf course you're playing. So if you're playing golf courses with big greens where you're going to have a lot of long putts, you throw in a couple, 50, 60 footers in there. Or if you're on a course of small greens where you're going to miss more greens, add in a couple shorter putts in there. Like, oh, you chipped it to 8 or 7 feet. You got to make that 7 or 8 footer. And most of that's just all, that kind of baseline that I use is based off the PGA Tour strokes gained average.
So you'll know if this is a 15-foot putt, you'll know that the average make rate on tour is X. And so you'll give yourself 10 putts at that, or a couple putts to see how many you get.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll go around and hit different putts, almost like we're playing a round, like we're playing around a golf. And you can kind of calculate how many putts you should have. I have a stat guy that makes me a putting course every week, depending on the golf course. So, shout out to Tour IQ and Corey Jez. They work with PGA Tour players. They helped me out last year when I was playing on the tour a bunch, and they would pretty much do a printout um, of like, hey, this is 18 putts. This is the expected, average, and those 18 putts and the length of the 18 putts is based off of, how many greens you're going to hit and what the average putt is. So, like if you're playing, like I think, you just kind of play around with it a little bit. Like if, or you could do an easier game, which we do a lot is we hit 4 10-footers that are random. Like you just go pick 4 10-footers random. I think it's then 4 15-footers and then 2 12.5-footers. And 3.5 is the line there. If you make 3 putts, you're losing like zero point 0.1 shots or something like that. If you make 4 putts, you're gaining 0.9. And that's a good one to work on your mid-range putts as well. I mean, it's, kind of set a goal and baseline, I'd say, off the strokes gain data. And I know there's calculators out there online and apps where you can figure it out and kind of create your own courses and just get creative with it and tailor it to kind of where you need to work on your practice and work on your putting. I find that's, where, pressure can get you a lot is with your putting because you have a lot of time to think while you're over the putt. And, I think just like shooting a free throw, it's easier to putt well under pressure when you're just in the flow state and not thinking about your mechanics. You're just trying to hoop them.
I'm curious with your putting routine. Can you walk us through what you're doing? Not necessarily like green reading per se, but like what is the routine when you get over the putt? Do you have a swing thought? Do you have a certain like? Are you counting down? Are you like what are you thinking?
So for me, when I get over a putt, um, I very much just my first instinct is I just want to get comfortable with like my body orientation. Just kind of like do a mental check of how my setup is, and generally I'm pretty natural. I'm a little open and all that. So I kind of end up falling in the same spot, and then when I get over the putt, I just take practice strokes, and I'm just kind of looking at the hole. There's no particular number of practice strokes. I'm just trying to feel out like the speed and that I'm kind of trying to feel. And then I'm just kind of envisioning that putt rolling into the hole. So if I'm over like a 15-footer, I'm just kind of, feeling out the speed, looking at the hole and kind of envisioning how the ball's going to roll. And then once I feel comfortable, I get down and I put a line on my ball and I just kind of focus on like, I'm just going to hit it down that line with that speed that I've been feeling. So it just kind of simplifies it. I kind of get that speed and feels from that first part of my routine of just working on, looking and envisioning the putt rolling in. And then when I get over the putt, all I'm worried about is just hitting it down that line with that kind of feel, just trying to simplify it as much as possible.
How often do you because I'm a weekend hack golfer, so I'm just kind of curious here. But and I know this is relevant for a lot of the younger kids out there as well, where you're still trying to figure out and you're second guessing yourself over a putt. So you'll set up your line, you'll read the green, you'll set up the line, then you get over, and all of a sudden everything looks totally different, and you start kind of second guessing. And like when you're envisioning the putt going in, like are you 100% committed to the line? We're saying usually there's going to be outliers here, but for the most part, you've done your due diligence, you've read the putt, you're committing to that. When you're getting over the putt, you're just envisioning, looking at that line exactly the way that the ball's going to go, and you just stay committed to that no matter what.
Yeah, I try to stay committed to that. And I think too, like I usually do a second check. So when I line up my ball, I'll kind of get it lined up. I'll, use the edge of my putter to kind of see if it's where I want it. And then I'll take 2 or 3 steps back, like get down and make sure that when I'm like 2 or 3 steps behind the ball, that line is kind of right where I want it. And I'm mostly concerned about like just I'll pick a mark, say 3 feet away from my ball, and it's like I just want to roll it over this. They'll be very specific about it. It's I want to roll it over here, and then from there I envision curve. I'm a curve putter. Some people are like aim pointer will just envision a hole, like pat, like over to the left and maybe past for their speed. I kind of see curve on lines, so that's how I like to work it. And when I get over that putt, I try to be really committed. And sometimes if I have issues getting committed, it's on those ones that are big slopes. So if you have like a big sloping putt that maybe breaks a foot or 2 feet, I try to maybe then, if for me, line Titleist kind of down the line I want. So then when I get over that ball, I'm more, those putts that are you're breaking 2 or 3 feet. It's really important just to get the speed right. So I'm much more focused about the speed and not so much about hitting it down my line. But that Titleist is kind of in the neighborhood of where I need to hit it, and that kind of gets me, freed up a little bit from the line to not, be as like line locked and more focused on speed and hitting that arc.
So if I'm understanding that correct, if it's a more straightforward putt, straightforward meaning it's not going to break crazy. So you commit using the line to, let's just say it's 1 or 2 cups. You're committing to that, and then you're just focused on just basically rolling it. Nice roll, using the line to get there. When it's starting to be a crazy putt, you have a general idea with the Titleist, lineup, but you give yourself that kind of freedom to change things a little bit because you're really just focused on speed.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. And I think too, like if you have putts that are half a cup out, if your line is off by, half a ball, you're still probably going to catch the hole. You have a
Yeah.
good margin for error there, but I personally feel like it gets me lined up more consistently. And that's a big thing when you get up on tour and the high levels of amateur golf is it's more about how consistently you can do things. And it's not necessarily about like, you know, I think how good you are just 1 or 2 times. You just want to be really consistent. It helps you to reading greens. If you know you're hitting good putts, then you can kind of get some feedback on how your reads are. And so I think that the line's a really helpful tool. I'm honestly shocked that the USGA allows it. It feels like cheating sometimes inside 5 feet. So I'm going to use it until they don't allow me to.
Is that actually in the works? Is there talk? Do they vote on that every year to be like, should we outline the line?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a thing. And honestly, there's a lot of guys out there on tour that don't use one. A lot of guys like to line on their putter. I've been a guy who's putted with no lines on my putter for, gosh, the last like 9, 10 years. I've had a blank putter or a putter that has a dot. I rarely use a putter with a line. So it's for me, I've always used the ball to line me up instead of the putter itself.
That's interesting. Because it is true. If you have a line on the ball and a line on the putter, maybe you're fixating on the wrong things. You're always trying to match up those lines. And whereas if you just free it up, you're just like, I just have to roll that line straight
Yeah.
versus trying to match up lines.
Yeah, there's different ways to skin the cat, and I'd encourage all the parents listening here to, if there's a coach, a putting coach that's near town, or you could probably look up. I think a good resource. And not everyone's an aim point person. I don't use aim point personally, but a lot of those coaches can help kids understand, like, hey, if they're an arc putter, a person that sees arc better, or if it's going to be a person that sees points and like you got to envision a cup, like it's hitting everything as if it's a straight putt. Like I said earlier, like I personally am an arc putter, and if I try and envision hitting it to certain points, my speed gets all out of whack. And so you can work with coaches to help your kids figure out, like, hey, you're going to be a little bit more dialed in if you try and read putts this way and envision putts this way, rather because there's generally 2 or 3 ways of thinking about putting. So I think that's it'd be a good resource to go to.
I've never thought of it like that. And Neal, thanks for sharing that. So I'm just going to sum this up. So there's certain putters that are envisioning everything kind of curving. You're just trying to see that curve of the ball and, letting the cup, I guess, get in the way. Other and that sounds natural to me. That's the way I read greens. Other people are they're seeing, okay, so the hole, and then they're envisioning a cup a foot away or whatever it is, and they're trying to hit to that cup. They're always trying to hit straight putts. Is that correct? Like those are the two, and then you said there was potentially a third way that some people are reading or envisioning.
So some people. So I'm personally like envisioning a curve. I'm a little bit more natural. Some people might be an apex putter, where they're trying to get the ball to kind of hit its highest point of the curve and then fall into the hole from there. Yeah, and then you've got, which is pretty similar to people who envision the curve. I think if you're an aim point person, aim point coach, apex would be kind of that curve situation. And then you have the point putters. So you have like the aim point people. It's like put your fingers up and you might get like 2 feet out. Some people be like, okay, it's 2 feet out. I'm just going to hit it to that spot. And then if it's uphill, they might envision the cup, a foot past the hole or a foot short of it. If it's downhill, so that, there are essentially like I'm going to hit a straight putt to this Envisionary Cup on the green, and then hopefully just let the real hole get in the way of my ball as gravity takes it to it.
I love that. No, that's great. We talked earlier about learning to win, and that it is the more exposure you are to those situations, the better you are at handling them. But for any of us that were following your junior golf career, you weren't that highly recruited blue chip, junior golfer. Like you had a journey to get to where you're at. Maybe let's talk about that, and then let's talk about that moment where all of a sudden all of us just like within a couple of weeks started seeing Neal everywhere. You were the low am at the Masters, and then all of a sudden you're the low am at the U.S. Open. Like, huh? How did that happen? If you're serious about helping your junior golfer level up, not just guess their way through practice, you need the right tools. That's why we partnered with Tour Striker Golf, creators of the world's most trusted training aids. From the Tour Striker Smart Ball to the Impact Sling and everything in between, these are the tools used by tour pros and top coaches all around the world. Why? Because they work. And here's the best part. As a Golf Parent listener, you get 15% off everything, even sale items at tourstriker.com. Just use the code GOLFPARENT, all one word, at checkout. Train smarter, play better, Tour Striker. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, no, it definitely been a wild journey. Yeah, I think just to start, when I was in high school, I was probably, man, just in the area of Pittsburgh, the third, fourth, maybe fourth best junior golfer in the area. I was in my class. We had a pretty stacked class. I had my teammate from high school, Jimmy Myers, went to Penn State. We had another kid, Palmer Jackson, go to Notre Dame. We also had Pat Kelly from Erie, went to Notre Dame. So, and it's kind of those three guys. And then I was maybe like the fourth best with maybe a couple other guys mixed in there. And I didn't have a lot of opportunities. I ended up kind of getting offers at University of California at Davis, University of Delaware, James Madison, decided to go to JMU. And I think something though that was consistent about me throughout a lot of years was I just kept working really hard. Like I wasn't really focused on golf until maybe I hit, seventh, eighth, ninth grade was kind of when I'm like all in on golf. And once I started focusing on golf, we kind of didn't really know how to get recruited. So that was a big thing for me and my parents was how do you figure out to get recruited? What are the right things to do? That was a whole journey. How do we play in these AJGA tournaments? Figuring out the AJGA system, which is, you got to be a PhD in mathematics to figure out the star system, it feels like. And so like that was a whole challenge for us. And I feel like, but even though we didn't necessarily have the blueprint, I just worked really hard. And I that's something I continue to do when I got to college. I really worked my tail off at James Madison, got better kind of consistently throughout the years just because I kept stacking work on work on work. And then we got finished up at JMU in 3 years. For my undergrad, I go to get an offer at Ohio State, get pretty lucky to end up there, to be honest. And yeah, I just kept working hard. And I think Coach Mosley and being around some really good players at Ohio State helped me realize how I needed to improve the most. And then had a great summer after my first year at OSU, popped off a really good week at the U.S. Amateur. I had a great summer. I finished, was it second at the Dogwood Invitational, second at the Sunny Hannah. I was, I think, 11th or something at the Southern Amateur, finished second at the Trans-Miss, third at the Pacific Coast Amateur, and then ended up at the US Amateur and finished second there as well. So it's like a whirlwind of a summer, and I learned a lot too of like how to win, how to be in those pressure situations. And I think that set me up really well for the Masters and US Open, be able to handle that pressure, handle being on that stage. Cause I had kind of been up on the top of leaderboards a lot all year.
I want to get into your experience there because so many of us, armchair quarterbacks are like watching and being like, what does it actually like to be in those tournaments? So let's put a pin in that for a second, because I'm curious, if you were to kind of sum up maybe two or three things that you actually learned that took you all of a sudden to place in second in all these big tournaments, like what clicked over? You had mentioned stacking work on top of work. Was it just the compounding effect of the work that you were putting in? Was it something else? Like what are you putting your finger on that actually made the difference?
I think there's a lot of the compounding effect of work. I think that's something that can't be underestimated. Um, I think that like, it's hard. There's a lot of kids with a lot of talent. Um, but if you're that guy that is just working crazy hard, in college and outworking guys, like you're gonna eventually eclipse people. Like talent only takes you so far in this game. You got to work pretty hard at it. So I think that's something that for me is something that I always tell kids. It's all about working hard. It doesn't, you might have a lot of talent, but you got to grind. Especially, when you get up here on the pro tours, it's so competitive. Like a lot of it's just being that little bit sharper than that other guy.
And okay, so you didn't take golf seriously until grade 8 or grade 9. What were you doing before then? Were you playing multiple other sports? Were you just like what did your life look like earlier? And how do you think that translated to when you finally did dial in and focus on golf? How did that help?
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball and basketball most of my youth, and I was honestly a pretty good pitcher in baseball. I would like to think. I ended up playing freshman year baseball and started. I played baseball my senior year of high school too. I stopped for a couple years, played my senior year. As a pitcher, played basketball. So most of my winters were on the hardwood, and then spring, some summer, and a lot of the fall was playing baseball. And I'll say like when I was not doing those sports and not practicing those sports, I was probably at my country club and practicing and playing with my friends. And really back then it was just having a lot of fun. We would, play 18, 27 holes, pretty much every day. We'd go to the pool, have milkshakes at the pool bar. Like you had a great time with it. It was just like the best summers. Um, so that was, you know, we, yeah, just like that's kind of just had a lot of fun with golf, but I was playing a lot of other sports, and I think it really did help me be athletic. Playing a couple other sports and not specializing early, and I think that is important. And you kind of learn how to do things like being a teammate. Being on a team sport's important. When you go to college, you got to be a teammate when you get in college, and that's really important. Um, there, you got to like know how to interact with people. You got to know to how to work with others, and I think that really helped me when I got to school. Just kind of knowing how to be a good teammate and help out my teammates, and just be a leader as well.
Yeah, and be a socially aware human being, and not just like socially awkward and recluse because you only ever played individual sports, which is sometimes the case if kids specialize a little bit too early.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is when you specialize early. Obviously a lot of guys have specialized early and done well, but I think you do run the risk of just kind of end up being too rigid and into golf, and you risk burnout too. I think that's something for me, as I never got burned out because I was always doing something else and always having a good time and just enjoying golf. And I still have tons of fun playing golf. I still go play golf with my buddies a lot here, and just, try to keep it fun when I'm not on the road.
So, okay, the compounding is this is so the work. How did you go about figuring out, okay, this is where I'm deficient, or this is my weaknesses in the game? And then did you systematically kind of work with a coach or yourself to kind of build up fundamentals, or did you just like how'd you go about getting so good so quickly once you decide to actually focus in?
Yeah, I think working with coaches is huge. Um, Sorry, did you hear that background noise there? Are you good?
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
good.
perfect. Okay, sounds good. I'll restart. So yeah, I think that working with coaches is was a big part of that. Um, I've been with my same swing coach since I was 12 or 13 years old now. He's based out of Florida. I've been with him for a long time. And he was always a person I went back to when we're making swing changes or doing fundamental changes. Um, but then, when I got into college, um, I was talking to my college coach and having really honest conversations with him. Yeah, I remember my coach Forbes was the head coach my freshman year, and I walked in to his office after the fall semester, and I did a good, like an okay fall semester for a freshman, but I was really inconsistent. I was the type of kid who would, as the best five man that you could ask for, probably I'd shoot 69 or 68 my first round, then toss in like a 78, something high 70s, and then probably come back with a 79 or 71. And I'd, contribute two awesome rounds to the team. One round I'd be the toss, but, I was, putting up two really good scores, and really helping the team out. But I was finishing 40th in the tournament because I'd, throw in a 79. So I kind of talked to him about like, why am I doing this? Like, what do I need to improve on to not, to not have these blow up rounds, not have these bad rounds or have these rounds balloon for me. And, we had a really honest conversation. We looked at our stats. If you're not keeping stats, I really recommend anyone does keep stats. It's super easy to do and gives you those insights of like, okay, look, I need to hit more greens, or I need to hit it closer, or like my short game had, this isn't where it needs to be. Just when you get those insights, then it's easier to attack. Like, okay, I need to go to this area, and then you talk to your coach, like, hey, how can I improve my swing, or where do my fundamentals get to go? And I also would say don't be afraid to change, but definitely make sure it's just stay natural to yourself and natural to you. I feel like when you make big swing changes, uh, and change a lot at once, that's when you can end up, not, I won't say disaster could happen, but I think you're opening up the door for, the qualities of your swing and that athleticism. It's, you want to be an athlete. So I'd encourage you to stay natural and stay true to yourself and keep being an athlete whenever you're playing golf and working with your coaches.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you hear all kinds of, horror stories where people lose their way when they're trying to do a significant swing change, and you're seeing so many unique swings now on tour, at all levels, that people are just owning their swing. I mean, obviously Scotty comes to mind, where you're just like interested in, I don't know. I think maybe it was after Tiger that everybody tried to fit into a little bit of a box, and it seems to be that it's opening up a little bit more to the individuality of the swings, which is nice. And I'm assuming it's going to downstream lead to less injuries as well, because it's more of a natural movement. Not too sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. And hopefully, I think that's something now is that you look at pro golf and college golf, there's so many kids are getting injured because we're speed training. And not, no knock against speed training. Like, I'm definitely always trying to get faster, but there's a right way to go about it, and there's a wrong way. And I think too, if you're with any junior players out there, listening, like, definitely like go try to get strong, speed train, but it's like, you got to go to the gym if you want to get faster, because your frame needs to be able to handle that speed. You're going to have to just, spend more time on your recovery afterwards too. Like, just do those little things, start early. Because even I'm 24 now, and I'm still really young, but like waking up in the morning and going to the first tee, I just can't go to that first tee anymore and just hit a 300-yard drive. Like, I got to stretch. I gotta do the little things a little bit more. And the earlier you can get that started, and make it become a habit, I think it's better.
I can hear every dad right now listening to this be like, Neal, wait till you're my age. Let me tell you, it only gets worse. I can hear everybody groaning in their chairs right now.
Oh, I know. All the old heads on tour keep telling me that. It's like, you haven't felt nothing yet, and I probably believe them.
What are you seeing that maybe surprises you? Like cold plunges, like red light therapy, or people like what are they doing where you're like, oh, interesting. Like I didn't know this before, but this seems to be working for some of the top guys out there.
It's so tough. I mean, honestly, like, I've heard of the red light stuff and the sauna and the cold plunges, and I did those in college, and definitely big benefits. I think the one thing that I didn't know about was just really getting your diet dialed in and how much that affects your day to day. And for me, I started working with a really good nutritionist out of San Diego. He works with the U.S. National Development Team, and we started off focusing on like just the little things, like, let's get more fruit, let's get those French fries out of there. Like, you don't need all this bread. Like, just kind of let's lock in on just a lot of protein, fats, fibers in your meals. And then we went from that to, okay, like you kind of getting dialed in, like let's start blood work. And we did some blood work and found out that, I should probably get off some gluten and dairy. Gluten and dairy are kind of the two big ones for me. A couple other things that's just causing inflammation in my body and in my gut. And it's kind of wild when you take care of your gut. A lot of good things happen. You start feeling a lot better. And then you go back and if I had a pint of ice cream, I would probably be feeling really bad. So it's kind of like, you kind of start to appreciate like how much better you can feel. I think obviously like if you're a kid, like a lot of the parents listen here, like I just let your kids, have fun. Obviously I try to guide them towards vegetables and those good things, but I don't think, there's so many issues with food in our culture. It's not something I'd really focus on for your youngster.
So wait, I'm a little disappointed because one of the most iconic lines in all of golf, "Body by Waffle House." So no more "Body by Waffle House." That's no longer a case.
No, I mean, geez, since that quote came out, I've dropped like 30 pounds. I
Oh
think
yeah,
because about a little more than a year ago. Yeah, because I started
and
working
it
with my
shows.
junior
You're
nutritionist
looking
and
good, man.
too. And, oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. But I tell you what, when I have it, I allow myself to cheat every once in a while, and when I do cheat a little bit, it's I'll definitely go to Waffle House. And sometimes I'll go there on the road, but no waffles. Definitely no waffles anymore. Can't have all that gluten. But yeah, it's honestly too one of those. It's a junior golf staple for me when I was traveling down south. We don't really have them here in Pittsburgh, so whenever
Yeah.
I went down south, I'd always want to go, and they're always open. What's the beautiful thing about it, especially when you don't have a good dining situation at your hotel or something. So.
Yeah, the convenience of food is deadly, right? Because usually that's when you're making those bad decisions. Is when you're tired, you don't have the capacity to make the good decisions. You don't have the time. Bad decisions. Okay, I would be remiss if we didn't kind of dive into both of your low wins. I mean, I guess we'd call it that. I mean, like, what surprised you the most about the Masters and the U.S. Open? Like what was exactly what you expected, and what was completely different than what you expected?
I think what was completely different than expected is how cool everyone is. Like that, like everyone is really, I think, welcoming and open. Everyone really helped me out when they could. Even some of the vets, like a Zach Johnson, was super cool to me. And like a Russell Henley as well. I ended up playing the par three with Russ and Larry Mize, and I did a practice round with Russ and Zach, and I mean it was they're great, and they also gave me they hit a little shorter than me, so they gave me a kind of a good perspective on the layups on the par fives. Um, but I think that like what surprised me was that like how cool the guys are, and I think what also surprised me was how I mean, it's kind of surprising, but also expected. It's like how when you play well and you make cuts on the tour, you're not really like I didn't feel like I was playing outside of my ability. Like I didn't have two of the best rounds of my entire life ever to make a cut at the Masters. And I think that's something like a lot of junior golfers when they get to big tournaments, you don't need to have the best round of your life. I think it's important to stay patient, to let the rounds come to you. And I think my team and, really helped me put that in perspective and to stay patient, uh, um, so that we were able to kind of let the round come to us, get our birdies when we could. When you play really hard golf courses, that's, you're not going to birdie every hole. You're going to make like five birdies in a row, or you might make two bogeys in a row, but, just got to keep hitting quality shots and taking it, the cliche, taking it one shot at a time. It really is true. When you play the Korn Ferry Tour, it's the same way. You think about having to shoot 25 under to win. It's kind of daunting, but you just got to take it one shot at a time, one step at a time. That's super true in those majors. And I think that was, it kind of surprised me when I kind of wrapped up on the second day. I played pretty solid. Didn't really make any big mistakes, didn't do anything crazy good. and is like, man, I'm like T30th or something like that at the Masters. Like like you don't have to play out of your mind to compete with these really good players. You just gotta, I think be a mature player, be patient, and kind of obviously have some game, but not really press. I think that's something a lot of juniors and young uh, college players, like they just are full go. Like they want to try and make a birdie every hole. They're a little mad when they hit one bad shot. Like, I think it's, staying patient and staying even keel would help a lot of juniors.
And you got paired up with Tiger on that Sunday, that iconic red Sunday. Like
I did.
what was that like? I mean, you got to give us a Tiger story. I mean, did you grow up kind of watching, idolizing? Were you a little bit younger? Like was Tiger your guy growing up, or like what was that like
Uh,
actually playing next
oh
to him?
yeah. Yeah, I definitely grew up watching a lot of Tiger Woods and loved Tiger. And I know when he came out here, I think in '07 for the Open. I mean, I watched the practice run. I was like head to toe TW gear. He's definitely one of my idols when I was younger. And like, how could you not love the guy when you're an 8 or 9 year old and he's just absolutely killing the game? And I think that it was really cool to get paired with him. Is chaotic, but at the end of the day, he's just a person. It was really cool to talk with him about a lot of things, like his two kids, and just kind of what's going on in his world, and talked a little bit about golf courses and what golf courses he liked and his college experience at Stanford. And it was a really cool day. Yeah, super fortunate. I think that obviously I played okay throughout the Masters and throughout the U.S. Open, but that tee time itself, just kind of got lucky to get that tee time with that guy, and I think it really propelled my career. It gave me a little springboard to go off and do some good things.
Is there anything that I mean, obviously he wasn't in contention that day, but like, is there anything that you kind of picked up by actually playing next to him where you're like, oh, interesting, I'm gonna add that arrow into my quiver, or that tool into my toolbox?
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, he really played within himself. I think, with his body, he's limited on what types of shots he can hit, or how his body just sometimes, some days doesn't want to move certain ways. I mean, when you've had that many back surgeries and that many injuries, like, and you're, creeping up on 50 now, that's, it's tough,
It happens.
and it happens. So I think he like all day he was playing just this big peel cut, and he just kind of let it ride, hit this peel cut, and I think he had like a little back foot trap draw shot with the irons. He just kind of had a couple shots that he played that he felt comfortable with, and then once he got near the greens, his touch was insane. He still has great touch. He has great hands still, and I think that's something that is probably underappreciated, is just how good of hands a lot of these guys have, and how often they're getting up and down. Like these guys, on the PGA Tour and on the Korn Ferry Tour, like we know how to get a ball up and down from 50 yards. That's in an inside 50. It's important.
I'm curious because I mean, you're only 24. You've had great success. I mean, like and you're like, if I was to bet, I'm betting on you. I mean, like you're going to do amazing things here moving forward. Those parents that are listening right now, and they kind of can look back on your story to be like, maybe they have a kid that's not highly recruited, maybe is 350th in the state, but loves golf, has a passion for it, and is grinding. I mean, like, what advice would you give to those golf parents that are trying to do the best job that they can to raise their junior golfer, and maybe their junior golfer isn't yet having the success that everybody wants?
Yeah, I think it's so important to not put too much pressure on them and kind of let them have their space. And I think like my dad and I, like, obviously I think all kids and parents butt heads at times. And like my dad and I have really butted heads about my mental game and like getting a mental coach. And I think he thought that was something that was super important. And he's not a good golfer, so he knew he wasn't qualified to speak on my swing or whatever. But like that part of the game, I think he really, we butted heads about it, and it became a subject that was not fun to talk about. And
So
I kind
he
of
wanted you
rejected
to
it for
get
a
a
long time.
mental coach and you didn't, or vice versa?
Yeah, is that he wanted me to get a mental coach, and I was like, look, I'm doing the right things. Like, I just want to keep going, and
Gotcha.
I kind of use my swing coach as a sounding board for mental stuff. I I had the view of like, look, I'm just not hitting the ball good enough. I'm not playing good enough. Like the way I'm going throughout my process isn't gonna change my game, which at that time was probably I think was true. I still think that was true. I just wasn't hitting it very good when I was young. Um, and I think too going through that and learning helped me be a lot better and more prepared mentally for those when I'm not playing well now and I'm a really good player. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're that parent though, it's like one, I think have that holistic vision of like, look, if they can get through this and get to a point like where I'm at now or as a pro golfer, there's a lot of downs. And if you've experienced those downs before, it's a lot easier to like when you miss three cuts in a row, just shake it off. Like it's like no big deal. I think some guys miss three cuts in a row and they kind of hit the panic button, especially a lot of the guys who've always been successful throughout junior and college golf. Um, so I think that's, like they're going to learn a lot. Your juniors are going to learn a lot while they're struggling, about themselves, about life, about the golf game. And, like just make sure you keep it fun for them. Like keep it fun. Don't put too much pressure on them. And, if it stays fun for them, they're going to want to stick with it, into high school, into college, and, throughout, the rest of their lives. Um, I just think keeping it, I've always wanted to keep it fun. And I think that's, I've always felt bad for my buddies who like stopped having fun with golf or stopped having fun with their sport, because it got too serious. And I think, a parent can have a lot of say in keeping it fun and just like having it be a thing that like, hey, it doesn't matter what you shoot to me. Like the money that we spend on your sport, that doesn't matter. Like we're here to just help you develop, and whether you play golf or not, like that shouldn't really matter, I think, to the parent, as much. And at least you shouldn't. Obviously, I think as a parent and having a kid, you're gonna want your kid to do really well and have like almost more than they want it at times feel that way. But I think you got to kind of just not show that to your kid and just kind of let them do their thing and let them figure out the journey on their own a little bit.
Yeah, well, so well said. What about to that junior golfer that has the skill sets? He's right there, or she's like so close to winning, but hasn't quite learned yet to win. Do you have any like little tips or tricks or some little something that can maybe they can take into the next tournament to maybe get them over that edge to actually win?
Yeah, I think my good friend put it this way one time, and I think it's been said this way a few times now, that like winning and learning to win in golf is like chipping away at a rock. Like the rock doesn't get bigger. Like when you take a chip off the rock, like it's only getting smaller. And I think that's how I like to look at winning and learning to win is like you're closer to getting that chipping that rock in half. You just got to keep going, keep trusting yourself, keep trusting your process, and I just keep evaluating throughout time of like where can I get better and just keep working. Make your I always been a fan of like trying to make my weakness my strength and keep my strengths strong. And if you could keep leapfrogging yourself over time, like you're just going to become a great player. And if you're trying to win, the same way, it's just like you know figure out like, okay, how can I react better to this shot? Or maybe, I need to do something on the golf course to keep my energy up late in the round, whether it's having, different snacks or looking into, other ways to, be more focused. There's a lot of things you can go into. It's but just, keep chipping away at that rock. It's going to only getting smaller and you're only getting closer to your goals.
I love that rock analogy because when you're chipping away a rock, it's not like it gets easier. Every hit is still tough, right? It's not like the rock is getting softer, but what will happen is again the compounding effect that the more you chip, then all of a sudden you'll split that rock. But every hit is equally as painful as the one previous to it. I think that's a great analogy. Yeah,
Yeah,
powerful.
I can't take credit for that one. That's my friend Kate Owens from James Madison. She always loved to use that one, so she was a lot smarter than I am. So
Well, Kate, thank you for that. Neal, thank you for sharing. I'm your biggest fan. I know that you've won over so many of the listeners and the parents as well that have been, following your journey, and now we all just want the best for you. So thanks for coming on the podcast. If people want to come into your ecosystem, if they want to follow you, if they want to, stay in your world, what's the best way for people to kind of just follow you, connect with you?
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram. It's Neal_Shipley 19. It's Neal. Some people mess that one up. So that's yeah, I'm just on Instagram, and yeah, feel free to drop me a follow, and you can follow with me in my journey here on trying to get my PGA Tour card, and kind of see some insights too, as what it's like as a Korn Ferry Tour golfer, and the glamorous life of traveling to some middle of the nowhere or kind of flyover states, I guess, and play a lot of golf there.
I love it. Any last words? Anything else that you want to say?
No, I guess keep working hard, and just I think I've said it 50 times, so keep having fun with it. And, enjoy junior golf, and enjoy the journey, because it's a lot of fun and it goes fast.
Yeah, well said. Neal, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Golf parent, I know how much this journey matters. If this podcast helped you even 1%, please consider following and reviewing it. It's the #1 way to grow the community and keep bringing you elite insights week after week. And while you're here, check out the show description for exclusive discounts from our sponsors, handpicked to help your junior golfer train smarter and play better.